à Minneapolis. Tempo Afrique Travel. Vous voulez voyager? Achetez vos billets d'avion à l'agent de voyage Tempo Afrique Travel. Avec l'agent de voyage Tempo Afrique Travel, pas de problème de connexion, pas de problème de transfert de vol. Avec l'agent de voyage Tempo Afrique Travel, c'est le voyage en toute tranquillité, en toute beauté, de votre maison jusqu'à votre destination. Votre satisfaction est notre plaisir.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Premium Law Access, and thank you all for tuning in. I know it's been a while, but today I'm going to be discussing a lot of immigration updates. A lot has happened, especially since the 100 days of President Biden. I'm going to let you know the immigration updates since he started his administration. So for those of you who do not know me, my name is Uche Waneri. I'm an attorney, immigration attorney with Premium Law Firm, and my number is 713-730-2900. So let's start off. I'm going to outline so many of the changes that we're beginning to see, and you will be so excited to hear what President Biden has accomplished so far in the area of immigration. So I'm going to start with asylum. Asylum, I'm sure that I guess most of you or some of you would have been receiving notices, and it's going to be captioned. Its caption of the notice is Notice of 1 year filing deadline for asylum applications. So if you've received this notice, you'll be wondering, what is this about? It is a class action, and it's for the case of Mendez, Rogers, and Wolf. The essence of this class action was the plaintiffs brought this class action regarding the 1 year filing deadline, and it was really challenging the government's failure of notifying asylum applicants that they were eligible to apply for asylum within 1 year after entering the United States. So since this case started way back in 2016, and they were able to reach a settlement agreement, and I will let you know the highlights of the settlement agreement. So it's a class action, and if you've received this, you know that you're a member of that class. It will be proper for you to contact your attorney to advise you, because you may have some asylum or immigration benefits arising just by being a member of that class. So, and such benefits would be maybe you refiling your asylum, even if it's been denied, or even if it's still in process, you may still have another opportunity to apply for asylum and so many other benefits, but it'll be better to contact your attorney. Okay, so the terms of settlement for that case, the Mendez-Rogers case, the terms were that the government has agreed to provide adequate notice of the 1 year filing deadline to asylum seekers going forward. So if you're an asylum seeker, after this decision, you'll be receiving a formal notice telling you that you need to apply for asylum or eligible to apply for asylum. You'll be given notice to apply for asylum. Then number two is they have agreed to create a uniform procedural mechanism that would allow asylum seekers to timely file their asylum applications. So in the future, everyone will have this procedure. You're going to be aware of this procedure. It's going to be a uniform procedure, letting you know that you're eligible to apply for asylum. And then the third settlement term is that they agreed to provide relief for certain asylum seekers who were harmed because of the government's failure to provide adequate notice of the 1 year filing deadline in the past. So these are for people who were, maybe they were in custody, and when they got out of custody, they realized that it was already too late for them to apply for asylum, and maybe they did not even apply for asylum, which they should have applied for. So this is very, very good news. So if you have clients, or if you have relatives, friends who are affected by this decision, please, they should not hesitate, because this letter is going out. I actually have a copy of the letter here. I don't know if you can see that. Oh, no. Okay. Sorry, I don't think you can see it, but I have a copy of the letter here. It's captioned Notice of 1-Year Filing Deadline for Asylum Application. So look out for that. So the next topic will be the 100 days. What has President Biden achieved? Where are we with immigration today? So there is a whole lot. As I was going through this, I'm like, really? Is this 100 days or is this 1 year? So much has really gone on. So first, I'm going to let you know, highlight what the changes are, and they are very favorable changes, I will tell you. What President Biden's administration has done is that in every aspect, as you're aware, immigration has different departments. You have the USCIS for administrative applications. You have the consular processing, the NVC. You have the embassies. You have the Customs and Border Protection. Every department, there's an overhaul of every department, and it's towards restoring humanity to the immigration process. So he has asked and ordered the staff, directed the staff to look at what the system is, the status is at this time, and then to find ways to improve these processes. So I'm sure that a lot of you, we're all impacted by backlogs and not hearing any response and not even any uniform systems and unpredictability of every process. So what he's trying to do now is getting it more organized, more streamlined, especially with the adjudications, everything. So I'm going to let you know what the changes are as we speak. So the first is the discriminatory travel bans. As you're aware, that was rescinded. So countries that were impacted, the 13 countries, are now able to apply for their immigrant visas and non-immigrant visas. But because of COVID, there's still that restriction, and people are still, the embassies have not returned full scale into issuing visas. But immigrant visas, especially if you're a U.S. citizen, yes, you will be on the top priority to receive your visa. And then the non-immigrant visas will be for emergent situations when there's an emergency. But the good news is that the travel ban, these countries are now able, citizens or residents of these countries are able, or nationals of these countries are now able to enter the United States or apply for visa to the United States. The only ban that is still enforced, though, is the COVID restriction ban. That's the regional ban to countries. That is still in force. And as we speak today, India has been included in that among those countries. And it's just for COVID, for the protection and security. And this is just for the national interest. But I'm sure it's going to be a temporary ban. And eventually, as the COVID situation eases, this ban will be lifted. So that's the first one. The second achievement is the public charge. The public charge rule, which has been discontinued. As you're aware, there was that invisible wall by the Trump administration, and it was really to slow down the process so that people or citizens or applicants may not be able to obtain their benefits based on this public charge if you have received public benefits. So President Biden has ordered, and it's been implemented now, that this be discontinued. So you don't need to be worried about the public charge, and that form I-944, is no longer in use. It's been discontinued. So now, before the Biden administration came into power, there was also a plan to increase the fees, immigration application fees. That can be very pricey, but that has been stalled now since the Biden administration started, that there won't be any increase on any fee increase for the time being. Then there is the executive action rescinding BAHA. BAHA. BAHA is Buy American, Hire American. So this, again, was the plan for the Trump administration, which stalled or kind of affected foreign workers or workers from being able to obtain employment visas here in the United States. So this has been discontinued. So this BAHA has been rescinded. Then you had the barriers to naturalization. So you realize that before President Trump left, towards the end of his presidency, the naturalization requirement of taking the citizenship test, those civics tests, was increased from 100 questions to 128 questions, and where you were required to be tested on at least 20 questions and expected to pass 12 questions. Yes, it's expected to pass 12 questions. So now President Biden has reversed that. You no longer have to study for 128 questions. You have to now, it has been reverted to the 100 questions where you expected to be tested for 10 questions and expected to pass 6. So he has reversed that because all these were aimed at slowing down the process, having less people become naturalized and all that. So President Biden has reversed that. So now there is also the streamlining of the adjudication process. So now with the Trump administration, there were a lot of notice of intents to deny, request for evidence, so many denials. And with the Biden administration, he has now required that these adjudication processes be streamlined in the sense that we should stop causing unnecessary delays. I mean, families are already kept apart because of the long processing times, the backlogs, and then now you're causing further delays by issuing the request for evidence and notice of intent to deny, especially when in some cases they're not even necessary. So he has asked, and it's now been implemented. We're seeing a lot less requests for evidence. We're also doing away with the biometrics because usually with the Trump administration, there were so many biometric examinations being taken place. I mean, if you've taken it in the previous year, you're required to take it again the next year if you're renewing your work authorization. But what we're seeing now is we're seeing a lot less. They're now recapturing the fingerprints or biometrics you used previously so that we can move along. There's so much backlogs, and this is hindering people from getting whatever benefits they have applied for. So that's what is going on now. You're going to be seeing a lot less. You're going to receive it. You'll be receiving notices saying that your fingerprint is no longer required, and then you're able to get your work authorization documents, your travel documents faster. Then, of course, we know about Daca, and still the intent of President Biden to legalize Daca to create a pathway to citizenship. So the Daca, the TPS holders, the farm workers, all those are still the priority. And those legislations are still pending before the Senate, waiting for it to be voted upon. And of course, hopefully, and we are hopeful that somehow the Republicans will come on board so that these legislations can pass and these groups can benefit. And hopefully, maybe after this group goes, we are hoping that the undocumented people will also benefit from this. So we're waiting on Congress, and immigration is a top priority. I don't know how many of you, if you had listened to his State of the Union address, you would realize that he mentioned immigration. It's still a top priority for him. So he also extended TPS to additional countries like Burma, like Syria, Venezuela. So these countries have been added to the list of countries that are eligible for TPS. Also achieved is the new visa bulletin charts, and this is for consular practice, or really, it's really for any administrative practice. So what it is if you fall in a preference category. Preference category is if you are not a relative of a U.S. citizen who is either a spouse or child under 21 years, or even if you're a child 21 years who is able to apply for the parents. So if you are not in that category of an immediate relative and you fall into a preference category, this new visa bulletin chart will affect you. So there's now going to be two charts which will be used in adjudicating for you to know when you should apply or when you should expect your visa. So the chart is the application's final action date, and the other one is the date for filing application. The application final action date will actually give you an idea of when your visa will be finally issued. And then the date for filing application will kind of give you an idea of when the earliest time you can start applying for your 485 or your application. The good news is, as we speak, the F2A is for permanent residents, spouses of permanent residents, children under 21 of permanent residents. It means now that their priority date is current. So beginning May of 2021, that is actually tomorrow. It means spouses, if you are a permanent resident, if you're a spouse of a permanent resident, you don't need to wait for a priority number. You can, as long as you have maintained your status and you're in good legal status, you can now apply. You can apply for your adjustment of status. So that is going to begin tomorrow. That's really good news, because instead of waiting till you get your priority date, permanent residents can now apply, but you need to be in status. So again, wow, this is also interesting. The CBP, there's the Customs and Border Protection. It has now even ordered, the agency has ordered that terminology, can you imagine that? Terminologies should actually stop. So they have changed certain terminologies. I'm going to give you an example. So they have stopped things like alien is no longer alien. It's going to be non-citizen. It's going to be migrant. So this is really good, because you're not going to be addressed as an alien, and they have started implementing it, especially the Customs and Border Protection. They have started implementing that. So we've changed certain terminologies, like undocumented alien. It's no longer undocumented alien, but undocumented non-citizen, as well as illegal aliens. It's all nothing like illegal aliens again. It's still non-citizens. Okay, so that's really welcoming, because now you're now seeing a more humane approach and more humane policies to immigration. That is really good. So now I know that a lot of you are experiencing delays in receiving receipt notices. Yes, it's taking almost forever. This is the receipt notice. Usually you're supposed to receive your receipt notice, and receipt notice is, especially when any payment has been made, you're expected to receive a receipt notice. That's an acknowledgement. So we're encountering a lot of delays with that. So if you are one of those, if you have waited and have not received your receipt notice for a reasonable time, yes, you may have to talk to your attorney or have to contact USCIS to figure out why you have not received that. But generally, since 2020, from I would say October, November, December, there's been an undue delay of receipt notices. So most people are impacted. Don't think it's just your case. So if you've waited for 8 to 9 weeks and you have not heard anything, it's time to talk to your attorney so that they can take additional steps to find out what is going on. You should receive your receipt notice. So another interesting one, and I guess, is lawful permanent residents who have traveled and are stranded in their countries because of COVID. We've received a lot of calls from people asking, do we come back? My card or my lawful, I've stayed beyond over 6 months. What do I do? So what the situation is, the administration has done this to take care of these situations because this is unprecedented. Nobody expected this. But if you are one of those, here's what you should do. Said you can still travel if you've stayed less than 180 days. The key is you have to create the impression that you have not abandoned your permanent residency. And in doing so, if you've stayed less than 180 days, that presumption, you're not deemed to have abandoned that. If you've stayed more than 180 days, there is that presumption, but it's rebuttable. It means you can challenge that and say, okay, no, I did not. And it's like showing proof that no, you really live here and you did not intend to abandon your residency. And then if you've stayed more than a year due to COVID, yes, it's going to be deemed that you abandoned your residency. So in that, yes, you will require additional proof. And here's the guidance we have received from the Biden administration. If you are one of those, you need to be sure that you've been communicating with the embassy, asking them about when they should, when the travel restrictions are being lifted. Save those emails if you sent any email. Save copies of that email. Those are part of the proof to show that you were eager or made efforts to come back, to return to the country. But you couldn't because there was the travel restrictions, and there was no way you could come. So things you could do is you showing proof of that email. If you did not email, maybe canceled flights. You have proof of your canceled flights showing that, yes, you intended to come, but it was canceled due to COVID. And then show proof that you had ties to the United States. So if you were working, you show proof of maybe where you were working or any proof to show or any evidence showing that you actually took leave of absence or that your employer is aware that you traveled. And you can also show proof of maybe the lockdowns or travel bans, how it impacted you if you're one of those in one of those countries, or if you're a national of one of those countries that is impacted. You show proof that yes, your country was impacted and there was no way you could have returned to the country. And then you can also show if you were renting or you have a mortgage, you can show proof of that. I'm sure you'll be asking, well, when I traveled, I didn't expect to take any of this information with me. But if you have family members, they can send those to you and you can present this if you're being challenged at the airport. So show proof of things tying you to the United States. Things tying you, showing that you intended to come back, that you live here, whether you have, you could also be, maybe you have family members or any ties to the United States. Those will be acceptable. Those will be considered. So don't think that because you are stranded that no, you should continue staying. No, make efforts to come back. And the key is to prove to the Customs and Border Patrol officer at the airport that you did not intend to abandon your residency. And that's really how you should do that. But if you have family members, if you have friends who are impacted, tell them to return as quickly as possible because so many airports are being opened and the restrictions are being lifted. So you don't want to stay on or stay longer than is necessary. If you had to stay back because someone was ill, get the medical reports. Just show proof of why you had to stay this long, and those will be considered, and most times may be granted. Okay, so don't feel it's a hopeless situation when you've overstayed and been impacted by COVID. Everyone knows, and a lot of people have been impacted. So far, this is what the Biden administration is doing. So many things are underway, so many changes are underway, and we are all hopeful, we are all expectant, and of course, we should also be patient because I know we are expecting that so many things would have turned the other way because he is now in power. But what you would have to realize, especially with the courts, there's about 1.3 million cases that are backlogged in the courts. So what you have to realize is that it's going to be a process, okay, to get to speed, but plans are underway. A lot of things are changing, and unnecessary delays, things that would cause unnecessary delays, are being limited or curtailed. So I'll encourage everyone to continue being patient. Hopefully we should be hearing things in the coming weeks, in the coming months, and as soon as I hear those, I will quickly jump on to let you know and become aware. Thank you so much. This brings me to the end of the presentation. Thank you so much for listening in, and I hope you found it very useful. Please feel free to share with your friends and relatives, anyone you think might benefit from this information. Please feel free to share with them, because there's a lot going on. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again next week. Bye.
Du nouveau à Minneapolis, Tempo Afrique Travel. Vous voulez voyager? Achetez vos billets d'avion à l'agent de voyage Tempo Afrique Travel. Avec l'agent de voyage Tempo Afrique Travel, pas de problème de connexion, pas de problème de transfert de vol. Avec l'agent de voyage Tempo Afrique Travel, c'est le voyage en toute tranquillité, en toute beauté, de votre maison jusqu'à votre destination. Votre satisfaction est notre plaisir.